Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Riley. I'm the Public Engagement Information Manager for the Victor Valley Union High School District, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to our second live town hall of the school year. So, before we get into this, I would like to show you a little video from our first day of school. So, without further ado, here we go. All right, so thank you to everybody who made that happen. We rolled out the red carpet literally for our students on the first day of school, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into the stream. But first of all, I would just like to introduce the members of our panel, and I'm going to start out, before we even get into that, I'm going to start out with a very special guest we have, and that is our district translator, Mr. Jonas Cabrera, and he is going to tell the folks who maybe speak Spanish. He's got a little message for you.
Muy buenas tardes, soy Jonás Cabrera, soy el traductor e intérprete del distrito escolar. Estoy aquí para poder responder o más que nada interpretar o traducir cualquier pregunta o comentario que puedan tener. Así que si ustedes hablan español, estoy aquí para poderlos ayudar. Thank you, Chris, for introduction.
Thank you very much. Okay, and let's start with our superintendent, Mr. Elvin Moman. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, and you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Great.
Okay, and let's introduce our cabinet, and we have our Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services. That's Dr. Ramona Yee. How are you today?
I'm well. Welcome, everyone.
Okay, and our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. That's Dr. Ramiro Rubalcaba. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm doing well. Happy to be here.
Okay, and our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, who will be a new face for those of you who watch these live streams, Ms. Debbie Deal. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you for asking.
All right, thanks for being here. And last but not least, we have one of our principals here, Ms. Heather Conkle. How are you doing?
I'm great, Chris. Thank you, and I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so you have an opportunity to ask questions if you would like. And before we do that, we'll just have kind of a few presentations, not presentations per se, just kind of a welcome message from each of these folks on the screen here. So let's go ahead and start with Mr. Moman.
At first, I'd like to welcome everyone who has tuned in to this today. It gives us an opportunity to deliver a message to our community, get our community involved in what we're trying to do in our district. And we're going to do this every other week, bringing something to the community about our district.
All right, thank you so much. And so I want to just say that this guy is actually a very memorable guy, and I don't forget him often, but I did forget him this time. And that's Michael Williford. He's with us as well, and we're going to get to his little welcome message as well. So. And I want to thank Dr. R for sending me a text reminding me that I forgot about poor Mike down there. It's when we have this thing on the screen here, there's a lot of different names up here, and sometimes when we have too many of them, I miss somebody. So I'm sorry about that. So let's move on to the rest of our cabinet here, and let's start out with Dr. Yee.
All right. Good afternoon again, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in for this town hall. Just a couple of things I wanted to kind of highlight. We had a really successful professional development for our teachers. We did it for 2 days right before school started. Had about 200 teachers attend, which is a really, really good number, and maybe about 40-45% of our teaching staff. So right now, Mr. Riley is showing you just a couple of pictures from our day. Lots of great presentations and sessions and lots of good feedback that our teachers had. We actually had 2 keynotes as well that did a dynamic job, and feedback from our teachers is that this has been the best yet. So grateful for everyone who was involved in developing and carrying all of the work behind the scene to make sure that this was a very successful 2 days of PD. So just wanted to share that with you. And again, we are so happy to have our students back. This is the second week of school. And as we are supporting sites and visiting sites, we are definitely seeing lots of energy and lots of positivity happening at all of our sites. So it's been a really great couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Yee. And our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Dr. Ramiro Rubalcaba.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Mr. Momin, for giving me this opportunity to speak a little bit about the contributions of the Human Resources Department. There's a lot that HR does for its employees, but there's also a direct relationship to what Human Resources does to the teaching and learning that occurs every day and the total educational experience our students have. So the Human Resources Department this year processed close to 200 new employees, approximately 170-ish employees. And without the Human Resources Department and the team doing such a fabulous job, we wouldn't have been as fully staffed as we are. And that contribution of having all of our bus drivers, our campus security, our nutrition service workers, all of our teachers, counselors, administrators, and the such led to a contributing factor helping for the opening of school and helping so that learning is taking place from day one. I'm also excited to share that through the creative thinking and the guidance of the superintendent, we have some resources that are available to our students, families, and staff, such as our mental health clinicians, or the addition of more teachers for the reduction of special education numbers, and the such, making sure that we have additional custodians or additional bus drivers in the event of employee absenteeism. So on behalf of the Human Resources Department, I'm grateful for this opportunity to share on what our small contribution is to the teaching and learning for our students, families, and staff. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. R. And Debbie Deal. Now, Ms. Deal has joined us replacing Dr. Antoine Hawkins, who was with us previously, and she stepped in. She has a lot of experience, and we're very happy to have her with us. So without further ado, Debbie Deal.
Hi, everyone. And first of all, I want to say thank you to my cabinet members, my cabinet team, the business team, for such a warm welcome into the business department. We were all happy and thrilled to put together a first day experience to welcome our students back. With the balloon arches, as you saw in the video, was so cute, and the red carpets. It was just so much fun to put that together, and I want to thank my team for all of the hard work that they did in putting that together. We're also very proud of the work that was done over the summertime. Lots of construction going on in the district to make sure that our schools look good, and they certainly looked great. We have some beautification projects going on at each one of the schools. We have some solar projects going on. We have a new field at Adelanto. We're doing a lot of really great things for our schools. In the middle of all of that, we're closing the books and starting a new fiscal year. And we look forward to supporting our community, our students, and just excited to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. And the man that I inadvertently forgot, Mr. Michael Williford, our Director of Student Services. And we initially weren't going to bring him in, but we had some issues that we might want to talk about. And it's always good to have this guy around anyway, because he's so knowledgeable, especially with all the matters as it relates to our students. So, Mr. Williford, anything you want to say to kick us off?
Just thank you for being here. Thank you, community, for being here today. We look forward to a great school year this year. We've had a great kickoff. So again, just really excited about the things we have in place for this school year, and let's rock and roll and take care of our families.
Great. And let's get to Mrs. Conkle. Now, there's a reason we brought Mrs. Conkle on. I mean, other than the fact that she's so knowledgeable and such connects so well with our parents out there. So we had an unfortunate incident on Friday night that thankfully did not result in anyone being hurt or killed. But unfortunately, after a football game, there were some individuals who got into some kind of altercation. There were some shots fired that thankfully did not hit anyone. And one thing about this that we can take away as a positive is that our staff reacted very quickly to this, got the students out of harm's way, and we were able to resolve the situation. Now, in addition to that, we are taking some steps to kind of change some things in the future and kind of make sure, well, we can't make sure of anything, but we can at least make sure that we're a little more prepared and maybe lower the likelihood of any of this type of thing in the future. And I will say that although they haven't caught the suspect, to my understanding, we believe that it is probably not a Silverado student, and that the victim, as it were, is also not a Silverado student. So unfortunately, these were kids who kind of had maybe no business being there. But there's some things we're going to do to kind of rectify those things going forward. And I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Conkle to talk about that.
Yes. So just in summary, I will tell you that this is my 10th year at Silverado and my 28th year in education. As a result, lots of training, lots of drills I have participated in relative to an incident like this. But I will say from firsthand experience on Friday evening, nothing really prepares you until it's the real thing. Consequently, as Mr. Riley indicated, we had a swift and appropriate response of our staff on Friday evening. But additionally, coming in on Monday morning, we debriefed about all of the things that we learned from our experience on Friday night that hopefully we will never have to put in place again. And then also made some revisions to some policies with regards to entry into events in our stadium and other sporting events, as well as entry into our parking lot, so that we have accurate records of who's here, first and foremost, and also the ability to make sure that everybody who does enter does so with legitimate business to be here and enjoy the football game or whatever event it is that we're holding. I also want to make sure that this doesn't overshadow the fact that at Silverado, we had a great opening week. Monday through Friday of last week, starting with the first day of school, all the way through Friday, was really one of the best in recent years, especially coming out of the pandemic. And on Friday night, up until the particular incident, which happened at the conclusion of the event, we were having a great sporting event. It was really refreshing to see kids back in their kind of natural environment, enjoying and socializing with their friends, and the typical things that come with a Friday night. So I want to make sure that this unfortunate incident doesn't overshadow the fact that we also had a great week last week, as many of the cabinet members indicated that overall across the district, opening week was very successful, and the same was true at Silverado up until that point on Friday evening.
Right now, and we do already have a couple of questions, but before we get into those, I can go ahead and pop up on the screen here these actual policies that Mrs. Conkle was talking about. And I don't know if you want to go over those in any more detail.
Sure. Just to highlight game tickets. Coincidentally, CIF moved to an online ticketing situation this school year anyway. And so we will be adhering to that, but it really assists us with our updated policies and procedures. So if you plan on attending sporting events at our school and any other school in the district, tickets must be purchased in advance prior to the game via the associated online ticketing. For us, that's hometown ticketing. Those links are available on all of our websites and all of our social media. Current student attendance will be limited to our current students with an ASB or with an ID. If they have an ASB card, it will be direct admittance because that is a pre-purchase situation. Students from outside schools will not be admitted. Siblings or younger kids 8th grade and below must be accompanied by a parent or guardian, and the appropriate student or child ticket must be purchased by that parent or guardian online as well. There will be no in and out privileges. So once you're in, you're in. You will not be able to go out and come back in. No backpacks or bags will be allowed. And of course, all parties are subject to search. Additionally, and finally, masks, if worn, must be medical in nature and or approved. No ski masks intended to disguise or camouflage the face for identity purposes will be allowed.
Okay. And this parking thing is, I think, is an important piece of this as well. If you can talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So in addition to a game ticket to get in the stadium itself to watch the sporting event, you must also have a QR code to get into the parking lot. Now, the QR code is a no cost QR code, but it is required to gain entry into the parking lot itself. That way we have record of all of the cars that are in our parking lot and everybody has registered to be there. It's a 0 fee entry. But just to get in the gates to park, you must have the QR code. And then after that, if you have been to an event of ours before, you know that we do often have sports and other clubs taking a $3 cash donation for parking. That is true, but that will be at a secondary gate location after you've entered the parking lot with your parking QR code, which is required in order to enter.
Okay. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add, Mrs. Conkle?
No, I think that summarizes it. And if there are any other issues, we will probably get to them in the questions.
Yeah, so let's just go through these. We got a couple of comments. Christine Foote, I know her. She says, great start of the school year. She's a director of human resources for us, been with the district for a while. Awesome teamwork. That's Aquanetta. Thank you, Aquanetta. And okay, now let's get to the tougher questions.
Sure.
Okay, a question. I just have a question about the new school schedule. Will the schedule go back to its original time? Due to school ending so late, my child has no time for activities after school. Well, Chewbacca 216, we do feel your pain because it's not easy for people like Mrs. Conkle either, trying to plan these athletic events and practices and whatever it may be. Unfortunately, we are under the direction of the state of California when it comes to this matter. We cannot start any high school earlier than 8:30 a.m. In the case of Silverado High School, as Mrs. Conkle will tell you, they show up at 9:30 now, which probably feels a little strange. But that's what we're forced to deal with at this time. If it changes, it's going to have to change by state law. That's the only way it will change. Does anyone else, Mr. Moment, or anyone want to talk any more about that?
No. Mike, you want it?
No, I think Chris, you said it really eloquently. That's where we're at. It's a state law. It's mandated by the state of California, and we hear you, but kind of where we're at right now. So, Chris, you said it perfectly.
Okay, so we've got one about the parking lots at Silverado. Michelle De La Cruz says the parking lot is a train wreck. Going in and out of SHS is not safe for students. We need some sort of director of traffic. Kids getting dropped off in the middle of the street. Mrs. Conkle, anything you want to say about that one?
Yeah, I would love to actually. Sort of part and parcel of the whole changes in policy and procedure and relooking at drop off and safety and parking. We actually met right away on Monday and started exploring a minor reconfiguration of our parking that includes a secondary drop off area. We have the support of maintenance and facilities, as well as cabinet, and hopefully Debbie and the purse strings has been updated. But it looks like we are moving positively towards a solution to the parking lot issue, including minor reconfiguration that creates a secondary entrance, exit, and drop-off area at the back of our parking lot.
Thank you so much for that. Okay. This is Rita Gerdes, who I think has joined us before, and I think is one of yours, Mrs. Conkle. Okay.
Yes, she is. Hi, Rita.
well-
Good to see you.
Will there be any drills so that the students know where to go or do when something like this happens? The short answer is yes, and I think there's a lot of information we can give you about this. Mr. Moment, I'll let you take it and maybe hand it off to anyone else who'd like to talk more about it.
Well, this is going to be more in probably Mike's area, so I'll let him take it and run with it.
So yeah, so great question. So yes, we've actually already instituted a lot of Alice pieces at our school sites already. There's even an Alice button or an Alice thing on our main webpage. It has a lot of information on some of the stuff we've already enacted. We reach out to all the administration, all the school sites too are aware of. There's a webinar we've done with the Department of Homeland Security that they've already watched, and they've been working on creating their assessment plans. And we're also, of course, moving forward with our contract with Steve Ellis Consulting. We'll be coming out to our school sites, training our staffs on all these procedures and things that need to be done. And then, of course, we'll be enacting throughout the school year other trainings as well as to drills to make sure that, again, our staffs and our students are safe, because that's what's the utmost importance.
Okay.
May I also add, Chris? Would that be okay?
Yes.
I just want to make sure too, because no scenario is one size fits all, and we can't run a drill for every potential situation. The one thing that we did learn Friday night, and I want to reinforce, is in the absence of a specific and a particular drill situation, what I really want my students to know is that they should listen to the nearest adult and follow their instructions. That is first and foremost, because when we did do the shelter in place, the adults were aware of it and were attempting to get all of the students in the right location. So again, while drills are absolutely important and they are key components of our safety plan, in the event of anything else, please listen to the closest adult and follow their directions.
Okay, thanks a lot. And looks like we have, we've kind of talked about this already. Parents stopping drop off kids, creating traffic jams. Kids in and out of gates are so close to the cars, seems like a hazard. Little to no room for kids to enter school. Rita says, yes, parking lot is a mess coming in and out on the daily. We need a crossing guard. I know these are older kids, but the parents still drop them off in the middle of traffic. Maybe a traffic light needed. Okay, well, I can talk a little bit about a couple of those things. Number one, crossing guards. We do not have crossing guards at the high school level. It's not something that is required at the high school level. So therefore, it becomes a little bit complicated to say, well, we would set aside this money to hire this staff member for something that's not required. As far as the traffic light, that is something that is beyond our scope, our sphere of influence. It's also very expensive. And so, Mr. Moment or anyone else, maybe you'd like to talk a little bit more about that.
Well, you know, the traffic jams, we're in the process of meeting with our chief of police to see where we can get some assistance. And plus, you know, we have SROs in our district, so maybe we can solicit their support in helping us kind of ease the traffic flow in certain areas in our district at our school locations. But it's something we have to look at in terms of traffic patterns. We just don't have an answer at this point. Mike or Dr. Rubalcaba?
I think, Mr. Moment, it's also a matter of educating our community and creating safe, healthy habits. I think it's common knowledge that we know we're not supposed to drop off our students in the middle of the street. That's an unsafe practice. So it's a matter of, as Mr. Moment stated, having our SROs gently remind folks that, number one, it's unsafe, but number two, it's also against the law. So as we revisit patterns, flows, create secondary stations to be able to drop off and pick up, it should ease a little bit some of those jams. And then with our SROs reminding, and the administration as well, reminding parents to be safe and make good decisions, I think with time, the community will establish healthier, safer habits.
I would also add that there is no designated crosswalk of any kind out in front of Silverado High School on Cobalt Road. The only designated crossing area is at the light at Palmdale and Cobalt.
Now, is that something, I mean, again, as I said, this is beyond our sphere of influence. We don't control traffic or the roads or any of these type of things, unfortunately. We can work, as Mr. Moman said, we can work with our city, with our police department. We can try to affect change in positive ways. One thing that's happening with Sims parents will be happy to know, Civil Institute of Math and Science, they're building that road, or they're completing that road, I think, that will ease
Yes.
some traffic. That road that dead ends over there by Sims is going to be completed to go all the way to Palmdale. I'm not sure the timeline of that project, but I'm told that is happening. And but Mrs. Conkle, would it be better if we did have a crosswalk there, or is that something that would help us or not?
I can't imagine that the presence of a crosswalk there, because it doesn't intersect with anything except the desert. So
Right.
again, I'm not a Department of Transportation expert, but it wouldn't make huge sense to me.
Right.
But again, at this time, the only designated crossing walks are at Palmdale and Cobalt.
Yeah, I guess my only thinking there was that if you have so many people that are just using that as a de facto place to cross, like maybe there could be something where they put up those lights and just make it a crosswalk. But as you said, it's like a bridge to nowhere. There's just desert over there. So,
Exactly.
okay, so let's go then to, okay, Adela Munoz. Hey, did my kid get in the online school? Because I haven't gotten notified. That I don't know. Who should Adela send an email to?
So, Mike, could you respond to that?
Yep. So on that one there, you can email Kobe Ogg at COGG@VVUHSD.org and email her your child's name and birth date so we don't get confused with other students, and she'll get back to you to let you know if they're enrolled or if anything's missing. But that would be the person. So again, it's Kobe Ogg, who's our enrollment manager.
Isn't it? It's Jay, right?
I'm sorry, you're right, Jay.
Jay.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
Okay.
Because
Well,
we all call her Kobe.
We call her Kobe, but her name is Jacoba, so it's J-O.
Yeah,
It's up
so
there on the screen.
Thank you, Chris. So yes, it's JOGG@VVUHSD.org. Again, email her with your child's name and birth date, and then they'll get back to you to let you know where we're at in that process.
Okay, yeah, and that is a good email. Jot that down, because I know this time of year there's a lot of registration related things. I do want to say, though, that Ms. Ogg and her team have done such a fantastic job in really just eliminating some of those crazy lines that we used to have every year. Particularly last year, we had just unbelievable lines that seemed like would never end, and we really have not had that experience this year. So that's fantastic. We had a couple of long lines like the first couple of days, and then it was pretty much gone. So they're doing a great job over there, and I do hear that we're getting like new kids in. I don't know if this is happening to you, Mrs. Conkle, but Mrs. Purcell told me that she gets like 20 new students a day still right now. Is that happening?
Same is true for us. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So, yep, they're still trickling in. Let's go ahead and go back to these comments here. Back to the start times. Thank you for your response. You mentioned that state law states that no schools can start before 8:30. Can the start time change to 8:30? Okay, so I'm guessing you're at Silverado, because Silverado is, I think, our only big high school that starts that late, right? And so there are reasons for that. The number one reason, I think, is transportation. But I'll turn it over to Mr. Moman and perhaps Ms. Deal, and you guys can elaborate more on that.
Okay, I'll have Mrs. Deal respond first.
I think I'm trying to understand the question a little bit better, but
Okay.
I think if you can please describe it a little bit more, because it sounded like it was already at 8:30.
Right. So, okay, the thing with Silverado used to start at what, 8 o'clock?
8 o'clock.
Now, they had to move to 9:30. It was an hour and a half difference. So this person is saying, well, if the law says we can start no earlier than 8:30, why can't we start at 8:30? Well, my understanding is you've got Victor starting at 8:30. You've got Atalanta starting at 8:30. You've got, what does UP start? Well, UP doesn't have transportation anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But you've got those other two big comprehensive high schools starting at 8:30.
Right.
So to have buses for 3 comprehensive high schools get everyone there at 8:30. Ms. Deal, that's not really possible, is it?
No, actually, we have 61 buses and 61 drivers, and we don't even have any substitute support at this time. And so it is a matter of rotation through those schools to make sure that we get all kids to school on time. And we just don't have enough school buses in order to get all kids to the schools at 8:30.
Right. So it's just a
Right.
logistical challenge. I'm sorry, Mr. Moman, were you going to say something?
I just said that's correct, because we have to stagger our times so that we have enough time to get back to a pickup point to be able to get
Right.
kids to school on time.
And you might recall that the school board, when faced with this tough decision, made the decision to move everyone equitably by 90 minutes. Victor
Yeah.
used to start at 7 and move to 8:30, which is a 90-minute adjustment. We used to start at 8. They moved us to 9:30, which is the equal 90-minute adjustment.
Yeah, well, I was telling Ms. Conkle, I mean, if my school started at 9:30, I would do much better in math because I always had math in first period and I was always asleep. So there are some bright spots to this, but there's also some challenges, some definite challenges. And like I said, we understand because we're going through it too. So it's going back to the Friday issue. This is Michelle again. Was the situation brought up to any of the students during class or an assembly about the Friday issue?
It was not an assembly. It was encouraged for individual discussion by our teachers with a direct referral to mental health services. On Monday, we had an entire team of 7 total mental health clinicians here, and they actively service students either in small groups as they processed or individually based on need. So we had held a staff meeting that morning, talked about an appropriate response of teachers because they are the front line and have, even though it was only 1 week, the closest relationships with our students at that point in the school year. And so it started in the classroom, and then external referrals were made to mental health clinicians, and those were addressed either in small groups or individually, depending on the scenario.
Okay, and we've got these are all Silverado questions. We got Michelle again. She says maybe send an email or letters about pickup and drop off. I don't know, Mrs. Conkle, is that something we want to do?
As soon as we have the revision and the new map, everybody will get a copy.
Sounds good to me. We've got a comment here from Rita. Shout out to staff and link crew at Silverado High School. God is good. I'm praying for you, for all. God bless. Thank you, Rita. Okay, Chewbacca 216 says there's an empty lot across the street from Silverado. Can it be acquired by the school and maybe used as a drop-off pickup? School and school security can be the cross guards. Well, you're thinking outside the box, and I like that. But land does cost money. But I don't really know the answer to your question. Mr. Moman, do you want to talk more about that?
I'll defer that to Mrs. Deal.
I believe that I'm not sure exactly which land piece that they're talking about, but I think, isn't that the other school property over there? But again, having a crosswalk is a city obligation. So we would have to work with the city about any kind of crosswalk or any activity with that road because it is a city street. So once again, we are working with the city on some of these issues. We will certainly surface that and talk with them.
Okay, and this comment here from Rita. On Friday, someone from Link Crew at Silverado reached out to my son and mentioned they would counsel would be available for students that need anything. And yeah, I think really the whole school's response to this has been fantastic. And Mrs. Conkle, I don't know if you want to talk any more about that.
No, and that really is the whole intent of Link Crew, right? Is to put those upperclassmen in touch with the underclassmen in smaller groups and with a really good peer-to-peer student perspective and experience. And so it's refreshing to see that Link Crew picked up that side of the ball and ran with it with regards to contacting the students for whom they had connections as well.
Okay, Mrs. B perhaps didn't see some of the stuff that we had shared earlier. She says, what will be done regarding more security for Silverado? Started year with an incident as a parent, I'm concerned. We certainly appreciate those concerns. And, we should all be concerned about something like this, what happened on Friday. But I do want to reiterate that we had some changes that were shared by Mrs. Conkle. So you'll be able to go back and watch the earlier part of this video. And that's going to show you a number of things that have been done. Because in fact, as far as we know, the students involved in this thing were not our students. And even if they were, it's still something that can be addressed. But we certainly don't want to have kids who have no business being there, creating this kind of trouble. So there are a number of things that we've done. I'll flash these up there really quickly, but you can go back earlier in the video and see a more in-depth look at all of this stuff. That we've made some changes, not just to admission to the football game, but admission to the parking lot to address these type of things.
And Chris, these are available on all of our social media, and they were sent out to all parents, student, and staff by me. Today's Wednesday. It would have been yesterday. So you can check your email for those.
Okay, yes.
And then Chris, from a district standpoint, we're also helping support Silverado also we're actually upping our number of SROs at the game this Friday. So again, we're going to go from 2 SROs to 4. And we're also going to be working with Blue Knight Security. We'll be actually monitoring the parking lot all game long as well to make sure that parking lot is safe. So from a district standpoint, we're also adding additional security. And then we'll be talking more about that moving forward for other sites and other stuff as well. So.
Okay, on a lighter note, Mr. Cabrera, I know you haven't had much to do because all these questions have been in English.
Okay.
I had a friend who watched, I guess, the last live stream that you did, and you were wearing a hat, and this person thought you had hair, and they were surprised to know that you don't have hair. So
I'll go back to my hat then.
Well, they didn't say it looked bad. They just said they didn't know. So there you go. Okay, getting back into the questions here. Okay, do we have a permanent lunch menu, or is it posted on our website or district site? So this is kind of a food service thing, so it's kind of under Ms. Deal's umbrella?
Mrs. Deal, yes.
Well, there you go. So we are constantly updating our menu options. And in fact, this year, I'm really excited that we are going to be doing some special tasting of different menus. So we don't have a permanent food service menu for our schools. Instead, we like to change those up so that the kids are excited about getting their meals for breakfast and lunch. By the way, this year we are offering universal meals. That is a new state law in the state of California. It's the only state that is mandating free meals for all students twice a day. So we're really excited about that. And that is also causing us to take a look at our menus. And I've seen some of the new choices. They look really exciting. They look like restaurant grade food. It's just wonderful. So nothing like what I had when I was in school.
Great. This person, is there a continuation school for the students who seem to get in? I don't understand the end of the question there, but we do have a continuation school. If I don't know if that's what you're asking specifically, but we do have Goodwill High School. And if you go to our website, VVUHSD.org, and there's a little tab at the top where you can select school, you can go to Goodwill High School, check out what they have to offer.
Chris, can we have Ramoni maybe respond a little bit to that?
Absolutely.
Dr. Yee?
Yes, thank you. Yes, so I work very closely with Mr. Lloyd, and he is the principal of the Goodwill Continuation High School. And we also have within Goodwill a couple of other programs. One of them is the Virtual Academy, and the other one is Independent Studies. So there are definitely some options out there. For the parent who asked that question, I would really encourage you to speak to your child's counselor at the school site. Really look and see if they are credit deficient. Perhaps another setting is a better option for them. And then once the counselor has the information, then you can go ahead and determine what is in the best fit for your child. So, but we absolutely do have alternative options for students.
And Dr. Yee, while we are talking to you, let's talk a little bit about the Virtual Academy because, it's kind of an exciting thing that we started doing during COVID, kind of out of necessity. But when you came aboard last year, you were really committed to making it a little bit more robust. And how is that going? And where are we at with that? And what does the future look like for Victor Valley Virtual Academy?
Well, I think it's here to stay. I know that we established the Virtual Academy because of the pandemic, and certain families, it was not an option to come in person. So we wanted to make sure that we provide opportunities for them to be able to to attend school online. What we did was we shifted to more of a traditional virtual academy, which means that students do attend 7 periods a day. So they start in the morning and they end. I think they start at 8:30 and then they end at 2:30. 7 period days, and then they have a teacher in front of them, just exactly as you were in a brick and mortar setting. The only difference is that the teacher is just teaching virtually. Students are actually following the same pacing guide, using the same core adopted materials as if they would if they were at a physical school site. So that has been the biggest change. And right now we do have room for students to enroll in a virtual academy. We do offer it for 7th through 12th grade students. We do have some criteria just to ensure that they are going to be successful in a virtual setting. So if you need more information on it, please make sure that you connect with Mr. Lloyd, who is the virtual academy principal.
Okay, and he's also the principal of Goodwill and Goodwill Independent Study. And so I do want to just throw out there, anyone interested in enrolling or who still needs to enroll, VVUHSD.org/enroll is a good landing page for that. And go ahead and contact our enrollment director. That is Ms. Kobe Ogg or Jacoba Ogg. And that's JOGG@VVUHSD.org. Reason I'm putting that up there is because Adela said, can you repeat the answer to my question? So Adela was asking about the online school. I could be mean and tell you to just rewind and go back and look at it, but I'm going to put it up here for you. So that JOGG@VVUHSD.org. And good luck with that, Adela. And we hope you get that straightened out. Okay, so Rita asks, will students be issued Chromebooks this year?
Yes, they will. Dr. Yee?
So one of the things that we are doing is ordering more technology to support our students to be able to give them access. Right now, we are not in a one-on-one where we have Chromebooks for every student that they take home, but we do ensure that there is a Chromebook inside the classroom to support the instruction. We know that it is the 21st century. We know more than ever when the pandemic hit that our students need to know how to navigate technology, and our teachers as well too. So right now, we do not have, some students at some sites are being issued Chromebooks to be able to take home, but district-wide, we are not quite there yet. So we are working closely with our tech ed department to ensure that perhaps in the future, we are definitely looking to move in that direction, but currently we are not there.
Okay, thank you so much. And Michelle says she's excited to see the new options for students for lunch. I have seen Apple Valley High School menu and it is way better than what is offered at Silverado High School. Well, did you taste the food? That's my question. Did you taste the food? It might look good on the menu. You ever gone to a restaurant and it talks about the crusted sea bass and the mango chutney, and then you eat it and it's not all it's cracked up to be? I'm joking, of course. I don't know. Apple Valley's food might be fantastic, but I do know that, yes, there are complaints, but I do know that we're working very hard to improve. Some of it is supply issues, but I'll turn it over to Mr. Moman and the panel if anyone else wants to talk more about that.
Well, I think what our food service department is delivering to our students is pretty phenomenal. And of course, there's always room for improvement, I think. But I think we're getting there. And but I wonder, does Apple Valley have a restaurant management program like we do at our 2 high schools? Because they do phenomenal in our restaurant management program. So I'm not sure many schools have what we have in our district. Who else would like to jump in and say something?
Actually, you know what? I would like to jump in, Mr.
Okay,
Moman. Not too long ago, we got, I think it was some students and parents that were concerned about kind of the quality of the food. So we our board actually challenged us to go ahead and provide them samples of the kinds of
Yes.
food that we were offering to our students. So before a board meeting, not too long ago, we actually sampled some of the food that we were providing for our students. And I want to say, Mr. Garcia, board president, said, "Man, I did not get this kind of food when I was growing up." Particularly liked the burritos. That was definitely a hit. There were a lot of fresh fruits, a lot of organic, a lot of farm to table kinds of offering. There was even like an Asian option as well that was really good. A lot of our students like the chicken sandwiches. I don't particularly care about that, but they seem to. So they're
Is it
definitely.
because you don't like spicy stuff?
No, it just wasn't in my.
That chicken sandwich apparently is extremely popular. It was way too spicy for me, but the kids
Yeah.
love it. So, hey.
Well,
So,
can I
Hey.
provide just the student perspective? Because I try to be out at lunch duty every day.
Yes.
They're loving the parfait. There's a new salad that they're loving. They're loving the new sub sandwich. And I will tell you that we actually facilitated an exchange of a chicken sandwich from a student who was very upset that she got the regular and not the spicy. So I can concur that the spicy is popular. And the feedback that we're getting in the first week and a half is that they're excited about some of the new menu items.
So before you go on, Chris, because when food service brought the food in to us during our board meeting session, Dr. Rubalcaba, we had to control him because the food was so good. And I'd like to hear from Dr. Rubalcaba what he thought.
Yeah, it's nice visiting the campuses. We can really see that our students are enjoying the meals. And sometimes it's a matter of what the perception used to be. Now the latest information that we're getting from our students is that the food is actually really good. The other thing, just to echo what Dr. Yee said, involving our students in the process and hearing from them directly. We had some student board members that student board representatives that brought it up at a board meeting, and that resulted in quick action by the board, by the superintendent. So we're always seeking ways to improve the educational experience, which includes their meals. And I think, Chris, it's going to be good to highlight that, we provide the breakfast, we provide the lunch, and then we also provide the supper program. And I know that we're still working on those details, but students who stay after school with athletics, other activities, tutoring, and the such, very often also get a third meal, which is called the supper program. So we really take good care of our students because they're like our children. Your children are like our children, and we want to make sure that they're fed well so that learning takes place.
Well, speaking of our children, so I can tell you that most of us are parents, and who is the pickiest eater? It's probably a child, right? They have a very limited palate sometimes, and so we do hear those complaints. And as we get older, we broaden our horizons a little bit and like more things. But so our food service people are tasked with providing food to a whole bunch of kids all at once. Being able to serve it hot, serve it efficiently. Also, it has to meet certain standards put forth by the federal government for nutrition and content and all that type of thing. And to get these, sometimes very picky eaters to enjoy this stuff, it can be a bit of a challenge. But there has been some good feedback. And so I'll just put a couple of those up there. Mrs. Noble, she's a history teacher over there at Hook, longtime teacher in the district. She says that her 7th grade students have been raving about the food. They're excited to have the choices. Well, when you have kids raving about, lunch food, that's a win. So we appreciate that. And then Michelle says, my student did mention the parfait and she enjoys it. So thank you. Well, Janet has a different opinion. Janet says, is this only being offered at Silverado? Because I'm not getting that feedback from UP. I don't know. I think we're doing these things. These menus are district-wide, correct?
Right.
Yes.
This
Yes,
is
they
why.
are.
Yes.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Chris, it's also nice to hear. I've heard a lot of students say they really like the salads, and that speaks to them making healthier choices. So it's nice to hear from students directly. Hey, we really like the salads. I'm really trying to be healthier this year. So it's good stuff.
The
Yeah,
farm to school programs are just really taking off in our district. And I want to let the parents and community know that we are also working very hard to get some grants from the state. We already have attracted some grants for our food service program. Some equipment grants and kitchen infrastructure grants have already been awarded to schools this year. So we look forward to having those grants, but also the farm to school grants are strong in our area, and we are taking full advantage of that. And we have vendors that bring fresh food directly to our food service program. So we're pretty excited about the offerings and the healthy choices that we have for kids, because when kids eat, they learn well. And we know there's many, many studies around that. So we, Michelle, we would encourage you to be part of our tasting team. Please send your email to us so we can put you on the tasting team. And as we roll out some of these new options throughout the year, we look forward to that.
All right. And Michelle was also saying, in reference to the thing about the culinary program, she said Apple Valley offers FFA, which would be nice to bring to Silverado. Would that ever be an option for our school? So FFA, for those of you who don't know, used to be called Future Farmers of America. Now they just say FFA. They don't say farmers anymore because they consider themselves more of a leadership organization. It's a great organization. I am familiar with it. There's great programs at Apple Valley, Lucerne Valley. Those are more rural areas where you find farms. Silverado, you know, is there a farm near Silverado? Not that I've seen, but that doesn't mean it would be impossible to bring a program like that. I don't really know. Does anyone want to talk any more about that?
Well, Heather, you want to talk about ASB and how they can start an FFA program?
Sure. So FFA, in my experience, having come from Snowline, which is also rural, although it's been many years now, 10, had it both as a class. They had an ag pathway, agriculture pathway, as well as FFA as a club. And so club opportunities are always available as long as the proper channels are followed through ASB with regards to a certificated staff supervisor, as well as a constitution and so on and so forth. That being said, there is an expectation that there be some land available for both growing and housing livestock. I'm never in a position to say never, but that would be a concern that we would need to overcome in order to ever be able to house a full-fledged FFA program and all of the components that are required in order for our kids to be competitive in that arena, because it is quite competitive, and there's state and local and national and probably international at this point competition. So again, I never say never, but I am fully aware of all of the things that would need to be in place in order to make that happen in a full-fledged capacity.
Ms.
Just
Conco, I'm sorry, but there's some really exciting pathways that you currently do have that
Absolutely.
are great opportunities. Even though we don't have that particular ag pathway, there are some others, correct?
Absolutely. Our culinary restaurant management program was mentioned previously. We have a child development education pathway. We have a fantastic medical pathway, and they also compete. All of these actually compete, like in a HOSA competition and a Skills USA competition. The computer pathway is present. I've probably left somebody out, and somebody on my staff will be upset with me after this, but that's just a handful of those that we do offer with the exception of FFA at this time.
Right. And you know, although these schools, Silverado, Adelanto, Victor Valley, we call them comprehensive high schools. Comprehensive meaning we offer a lot. We try to offer almost everything, a little bit of everything, but we can't literally offer everything. And you will find that there are some schools who maybe there's a little bit more of a focus in this direction or in that direction, but we have really terrific programs at each one of those schools. And, you know, no matter what you're into, there's a lot of different things across the district, and there's academies that we're starting, and maybe that's something Dr. Yee would like to talk more about, just about our different academies and pathways.
What I was going to actually add is that there is a procedure, and it really depends on interest. So generally speaking, from the site level, the principal would get, if students and parents and staff are interested in offering a course that we currently do not have, and you have, students that are interested in it enough to make a class and so forth, and it works out in the master schedule. But that is really the process that we utilize. And then, of course, from the district standpoint, we would support with the materials and whatever it is that we need. One of the things that we actually, I don't want to say steal, but we did the ag teacher from Snowline actually as our current coordinator of CTE. So she's very familiar with that. And so we have so many different pathways. As a matter of fact, at the next board meeting on September the 1st, we are actually celebrating 3 or 4 of our students who actually placed during their Nationals Skills USA competition at the end of the year. And we are so proud of them. A lot were in robotics and also in the healthcare pathway. So those are so important to our students to have those opportunities and experiences. But any courses that may be of interest, if students show an interest in it, we have enough, then of course we can go ahead and research that a little bit further.
Okay, yeah, and it, I think that's a great point to bring up, that, if we don't have the interest, then we'll go in a different direction. But hey, if the interest is there, we can make it happen. So Michelle says, my student is in culinary 2 and is excited with class. They mentioned a food truck they just received and will be using it this year. Is that correct? So they're talking about Silverado, I assume?
Yes, they are. That is all true. And we can't wait to have it up and running. It's probably going to function a little bit like a taco truck. Going to be wrapped and graphicked out, and hopefully you'll see it rolled out at sporting events as part of our fundraising and outreach opportunities, as well as our work experience for those advanced culinary students to gain actual workplace experience, both at the front of the counter running, the business and the cash register and taking the orders, and at the back of the house preparing the meals and, serving and all of that. So yeah, that is not a rumor. That is true. And we can't wait for it to come to fruition.
Yeah, well, thanks, Michelle. You're doing our job for us. That's good, promoting our stuff.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Michelle. I don't see any more questions. If there's anyone who wants to slip one in late, you're welcome to do so. It is 3:57. I'm going to go around the table here. I'm going to say muchas gracias to Mr. Cabrera, even though you didn't get to work much. But
I was working. I was translating some IEPs.
oh, well, there you go. He's multitasking. So, and then Mountain Desert Career Pathways says, great information. Thank you for providing the students so many options. Career technical education is an important option for students. Well, thank you. And I've met some of those folks from MDCP, and they're a great partner of ours. So let's just wrap it up, and we'll go kind of in reverse order what we did before. Mrs. Conkle, anything you'd like to say?
No, just thank you for having me, and I appreciate the thoughtful questions, but also to reinforce and know that we are actively working to create a consistently safe environment, and hopefully Friday's situation was a one-time experience that we'll never have to repeat, but we have learned a great deal from it, and we are implementing that knowledge right out the gate on this Friday evening. Actually, I take that back. Tomorrow for the lower level sporting events. So starting right away on Thursday.
Right. And Sandra, making a comment along those same lines, I am going to ask you just to go back a little bit. We did show it a couple of times, but kind of towards the beginning, we outlined some of the procedures that we're going to do for these sporting events going forward. And hopefully that some of that will put your mind at ease. Some really good policies. I mean, I think it's really going to work well. And I think, unfortunately, it took, an event like this to kind of help us create some of these things. But now that it's in place, I think it's fantastic. And I think some of the other schools are doing some of the same things already. So
That's true.
So that's fantastic. And so thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Miss Noble, for watching. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Rita. Okay, and let's go, and thank you, Sandra. And let's go to Mr. Williford.
again, just thanks for being here. Thank you for having me here this evening, afternoon, actually. I'll be looking forward to everybody at the Silverado game. I'll be there to help again. Want to make sure our kids are safe and the staff is safe. And let's just have a great rest of the week. And thank you, families and community.
Okay, and Ms. Deal.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I appreciate your comments on food service. We will continue our tasting efforts in bringing great food to kids. On the security issues, I want to add that our M&O team is actively looking at each one of our school sites for security issues. And we will be doing some additional fencing and some additional work with the drop-off and pickup locations. More information will be coming out about that as we get closer to finalizing some of our plans to keep everyone safe. Everyone have a great evening. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, and Dr. Rubalcaba.
Just want to say thank you, Mr. Momin. Thank you, Chris, for inviting me to share a little bit about human resources and what we do to contribute to the learning environments. And of course, want to thank the community for tuning in. Parents and guardians are the first and most important teacher in a child's life, and just happy to be a part of that process. Have a good evening.
All right, thank you, Dr. R. and Dr. Yee.
Hi, everyone. Thank you again for joining us this evening and just for entrusting your children to us. You know, we are absolutely thrilled and we love what we do. We're very passionate about what we do. And we always want to make sure that our students are safe and that we provide the highest quality education for them. One of the things that we've been doing, because Mr. Momin is a very forward thinker, and we've been visiting school sites. We've been doing classroom walks. We've been doing site walks to really ensure that we pay attention to not just the things that are going on in the classroom, but just the campus as a whole and the feel of it. So I'm going to encourage parents, and I do have a junior in high school that started this week as well. And I have those conversations with her. So talk to your child, especially, you know, in the new year, and really just talk about kind of, you know, what they're experiencing. Do they, you know, what's going on at school? How are their classes? And I'm here today actually supporting Lakeview Leadership Academy. And I noticed within the 3 periods that I was monitoring outside that we are really enforcing kind of our tardy policy. I know last year at certain sites, we kind of felt like the kids kind of just took their time a little bit getting to class. We want to make sure that we offer the bell-to-bell instruction that the kids, when, you know, the bell rings, that they are supposed to be in class. That's the only way they get their education. So I would encourage parents to just address that with their children, make sure that they're safe, but also make sure that they do get to class on time and not miss out on any wonderful learning. So just wanted to add that comment. And again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Elvin Momin.
Well, thank you for joining in on our session today. It's also great that you ask questions, because that's what allows us to improve what we do as educators and professionals. And also I want to thank my team for being here today to provide the answers and responses to our community. And we want to do this every other week as we move forward. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everybody. Thank you for your questions. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.